Hello Internet. It's been a long time since I've done a video of any kind. Hello there, Lurch. You're lovable. I've got him tied up right now because I'm about to run down the road and pick up a few items and get the oil in the truck hot because we're going to do an oil change on the truck. I've been kind of busy. I built myself a little garage here of sorts. It's not quite finished yet. I'm going to put a loft area that's closed off on the front up here. I'll probably lower this a little bit to make the loft a little higher. I can lower it a foot or two and still have good clearance over my head. But I needed a place to put my lawnmowers and weed eaters and chainsaws and things of that nature, a sort of covered area. It was going to be a completely enclosed shed, and I just decided that since it was going to be used for things like this, closing up the front side would just sort of get in the way of pulling lawnmowers in and out. We've got one we built years ago on down the property, and the ground swells up in the winter time and the doors are hard to open, and this is just easier and it keeps them covered. I am going to frame up, put some wall studs around on the inside and then paint the inside, and that'll give more rigidity to the walls, and it'll also give me something to attach, you know, pegboard and things of that nature too. I made one screw up though that's kind of bugging me. I don't know if this 4x4 is bowed, or more likely I leaned on it when I was attaching that first joist and I didn't notice it, but this 2x6 should come flush with this corner, this 4x4. Now in the middle here and on the bottom, it does measure exactly 14 feet the way it's supposed to, from outside edge to outside edge. The diagonal distances across the middle and the bottom are correct. So I'm thinking that it may be just a little bit bowed, and I can't tell. You know, you can even stand here and look down the side, you know, and everything looks good and square, but it must be bowed, or I must have pushed it a little bit when I was attaching this joist, that, you know, first putting the roof on here, because it's, you know, an inch and a half off, which isn't a huge deal. It's a shed, but every now and then, you know, like that one looks fine, but every now and then you'll find a spot where, like this one, you can tell, like up here, the overlap is like right over that joist, but on down here, it's, you know, right beside it. Not a huge deal, but it bugs me, so I'm gonna have to figure out a way to cover that because it's gonna bug the daylights out of me. I thought about shooting a YouTube video of this, but it's hard to shoot YouTube videos of stuff like this when you're by yourself, you know, because when you don't have that metal up there, you're balancing and you're going up down ladders with tools and stuff, and I don't have a dedicated camera person, so it was hard to do it. But I do have another project I want to record today, hopefully. Mom has a back room on her house that used to be a porch, and we sort of boxed it in and turned it into a back room. Well, the roof started leaking. The sheet metal that's on it was old and salvaged from some other place, and I didn't know the roof has been leaking. I went in there the other day and I noticed the floor was raised and swelled a little bit. She said the roof had been leaking, so we've got some metal down there, and we're going to take that old metal off and see what we can do to sort of repair that back room for her. But the first order of business is I've got to get some caffeine in me, and that's a good excuse to drive the truck down the road and get the oil good and hot so I can do the oil change. And then we will go down here and cut some metal and look at Mom's back room. Stuff makes good bar oil for your chainsaw. So I'll just keep this jug. So, bam. Now the goal eventually, I said I want a loft out to say here, from here back, and all the way forward. I think I'll drop this about another foot, because the top edge of it is 8 feet from the ground right now, which means the bottom edge is 7 foot 6 inches. So if I dropped it another foot, that would give me an extra foot back here and, you know, up here, and I would still have 6 inches ish of clearance between the top of my head and the bottom of the shelf. That should hold everything that's worth saving in this old junker. This thing's been a storage building for ever. Mom and Dad got it when I was a kid, and when they first got it, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it was old, but it wasn't terrible. But as you can see, windows that were cracked are now completely gone. You know, stuff like this. The walls are gone. We look in here, and like there's an old recliner we might salvage. There's some doors, and there's a few items in here that might be worth saving. But most of it's just junk that has collected mold and mildew over the years. And so I tried to move it when we first moved our double wide in. My intent was to move it then. Dad was going to have it just dragged down the property, you know, somewhere in between us to get it out of my front yard. But the axle's still under it. I put a jack under it to try to lift it so I could dig the axle up out of the ground, you know, because over time it had sat down and buried itself. And when I started to lift it, the frame started buckling under its own weight. And then when I tried to sit it back down on the blocks, it collapsed and is no longer sitting stable on the blocks that it had. So I can take one hand and shake this whole thing. So it's a safety hazard, it's a rat's den, it's full of junk, most of which we ain't ever going to use again. And so my intent in starting this project was to give me somewhere to put my tools and somewhere to put what little is worth saving that's still in here. So I can cut this thing up and sell it for scrap metal and get it out of my front yard. Right on the money, right dead center of the hash marks. So we are good to go. Let's see here, we go. There we go. That's it. And then we just back out of here. There we go. Updated seconds ago. So my spreadsheet's been updated with my oil change. So basically the issue is this back room used to be a porch and this metal's leaking. The metal's probably old as I am, and it's been cut and it's jagged, it's full of holes. So we just got some new metal. The only problem is Lowe's only sells it in 8 and 12 foot pieces. These are 12 foot pieces. And I believe these were cut at 9 feet. So 8 feet wouldn't be long enough and 12 feet would stick way out here. So we're gonna have to measure and double check and then cut these off to the proper length. Like about 9 foot 5 inches, so we'll cut it 9.5 feet. That'll give her maybe a little bit more of an overhang, but that'll give us some leeway to work with. So. So actually about 9.5 feet will give us about another 1.5 inches longer than these, but it'll give us a little bit more to work with. Worst case scenario, she ends up with a little bit more of an overhang over the end here, which ain't no big deal. I'd rather have a little too much than cut them too short and I have not quite enough. Alright, so next we got to get safety glasses and hearing protection, because this metal is loud when you cut it. We're going to be cutting it with a regular old circular saw, but I've got an old blade here we're going to be using. And basically what you do is, you see how on this one the teeth are angled kind of this way because the blade spins this direction. We're going to angle this one, put it on backwards, so that the teeth are angled the wrong direction, and we'll be cutting the metal with the back side of these teeth. Works pretty good, especially if you take your time. A couple things to remember. You're going to have metal chunks flying at you. Wear safety glasses. Wear hearing protection because it's loud. And if you've got carbide tip blades, especially wear eye protection, because sometimes these will fly off when you're cutting into metal like that. Alright, and there's two sheets cut to 9 foot 6 inches. Got a little bit of a burr on the last little bit there, but otherwise did pretty good. This is why you should probably wear safety glasses and maybe even long sleeves if you're holding it for somebody, because these little chunks of metal come up flying out of it. But makes reasonably smooth cuts if you just take your time. Alright, so we can pull these two off and lay them over here. They're ready to go up. We'll get them all cut first. Let's make sure how many she needs. She needs, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So she needs 8 of them. We've got 9, so we've got an extra. So we've got 8 9.5 foot sheets. There's the pieces we cut off in case we need them for something. Probably, in fact, we will need to replace the insulation too, but we can do that after the fact, because that gets put in from the bottom side and stapled up. And I guess when I was a kid we never bothered to box in these eaves or nothing, and it's collected moisture and wasp nests and whatnot. So the metal is the most important thing right now, because that will stop the water entry. And once we've got the metal replaced, then we can fool with, and the lumber looks to be fine. I've checked it in a few spots back in there. It's dark, but it ain't rotted or nothing. So we get the metal up, stop the water entry, then we can fool with replacing the insulation and boxing these eaves in, to you know, help protect the insulation and keep critters out and things of that nature. This is mainly just a storage room slash pantry, but you still don't want it leaking, especially since we've got electricity in there with lights and stuff. So you can see here we've coated it a few times with tar and this rubber stuff, but I guess we just used regular old nails. I was like 12 or 13 when we did this. I don't remember, but it looks like we just took some pieces of rubber and put under regular old nails and nailed it. And she says it's a leaking over one of her lights. Let me get a solid spot here. You can see where the cross members are, so that's where I put my foot. The problem is, when it comes to a tarred roof, you know, the leak, she said, was right around in here. But you can see there's cracks up here. It could be leaking in here and then running under that tar down until it finds a hole, and then leaking, you know, 6-8 feet from where the water's actually getting under the sealant. But you can see this tar's been, oh yeah, look over there, it's bubbled up and everything. Let me see here. Well, no, that seems kind of, I wonder. Oh yeah, that's just air underneath it, so. And it's damp underneath there. So there's water getting in through all these cracks and seeping down. You know, there's a crack here. So I'm not gonna fool with starting on actually putting the metal up tonight, because it's starting to get dark. And since this is a room that actually has electricity and that, you know, is in use, I want to try to get it all knocked out in one day. Get the old metal pulled off and the new metal put on all in one day, so that we don't have to worry about putting tarps over it and her room is not uncovered for any longer than it needs to be. I also forgot to mention this little project a while back. When Dad got sick and they called me to carry him out of the house, there was no deck back here, and it was just these rickety old steps, you know. Mom was afraid to go up them and down them, and the ambulance workers didn't want to carry Dad down them. So they called me and I come and carried him out of the house. And so I went ahead and built Mama a back deck back here, got her some cement steps that are a lot wider. I've got some 4x4s laying on the trailer with that metal over there to make her some hand railings eventually. But she's got, you know, she's got a space back here where she can safely come out of her back door and not have to worry about these steps collapsing or her falling because she's got a bad foot and the hand railings aren't safe. Just got to clean up my mess from building it. But so tomorrow I will try to come down here, if it ain't raining or anything. Tomorrow I will try to come up here and get this done. I'll try to record it too. We've got the metal cut. I've got screws and everything. I've got actual roofing screws and everything I need to get the metal put up on hand. I just got to do it. But I don't want to start on it tonight and then leave it half finished and then, you know, it rain or something tomorrow. So I'm going to wait until tomorrow or someday where I've got the whole day to take all this old stuff off, scrape and remove all that old tar, put the new metal up, put new flashing over it. I've got flashing too, and do all of the exterior stuff of the roof in one sitting and just get it done. And then we can fiddle with, like I said, boxing the eaves in and replacing the insulation from the inside. We can do that anytime. But I didn't know what was going on, and I walked in the back room and the floor was hooved up, and she said the roof was leaking, so I tried to take care of it for her. But just another day out in the woods, you know, taking care of ourselves best that we can. I've got some firewood I need to cut for a relative of mine. We've got electric heat, but she needs some firewood, and I've got some seasoned beech up here that should do good for her. And roofing for Mom. I've got some things I want to do to my shed, but the roof is up on it, so it's okay for now, and it's solid enough for what it is, so I can get to that anytime and add wall studs and the little loft storage and whatnot. But this is immediate concern because it's October, and so snow's not too much farther off, so we need to get that done before snow comes. And her floor is already starting to swell, so I have a feeling once I finish the roof, I'm going to have to start pulling the floor up and checking that out and redoing the floor. But the roof on this back room of Mom's is primary concern number one right now. So anyway, I just wanted to shoot a little vlog of what's going on in my life. They just canceled school again. We had been taking children to school in like 2 groups, Mondays and Tuesdays, and then Thursday and Friday kids. I had like 3 kids at max, and then the rate of new cases per week for our county skyrocketed again. I know the last video I made, I said it wasn't that bad. Well, it's hit. It's getting pretty bad. I've got some in-laws that have died from it already, and they don't live in this county, but in general, you know, in Kentucky, it's even getting out into these rural areas now because we have to go out into town to get groceries and go to work and things. So, but this is what's going on. If y'all like the video, post a comment, give me a like or a subscription. I'm going to try to do more content like this. My gaming videos don't do very good because there's 100 billion people out there that can hold a controller and play games better than I can. And I don't do very good talking to the camera. So I'm going to try to just do more outdoor project vlog type videos like this. So anyway, y'all take care. Have a good one. Marcus out. So I've got another video that I've recorded footage for, but I don't know if I'm going to upload it or not. But if in case I don't, I'll go ahead and mention it here. My father died August the 22nd. He had been getting sick. He had quit eating. He said the thought of food made him sick. He tried eating a few times, even just fresh vegetables out of our garden. He said anytime he tried to eat, he just got sick. And he just started losing weight like crazy. And we kind of suspected what was going on, and I just asked him one day, and he said that last x-ray he took at the VA, there was a big black line all the way across his hip bone, his bone cancer. And he said at that point, it was so big, you know, what are you going to do? Get a hip replacement and hope it hadn't spread anywhere else? And when I started realizing that he probably didn't have a lot left, I went ahead and called the VA and had them call and convince him to go to the hospital, because I figured they can give him some painkillers and make him more comfortable than we could make him here. And so I carried him out the back door to an ambulance when the ambulance arrived, and I took him into the hospital down there, and last words I said to him was, you know, I just don't want you to suffer, and I love you. And he just kind of nodded his head. And after that, I kind of made sure that it was Mom that was with him, because I told her, I said, you know, I love him as a father, but you're the one person in this world who chose to be with him and swore to spend your life with him. So I made sure she was the one that was with him. He lasted about 2 more days, and then he passed. And like I said, toward the end, I kind of noticed it was almost like dementia, but I knew it wasn't dementia. It was just the cancer. And they did some x-rays and things while he was in there, and it was in his lungs and his lymph nodes, and he was eat up with cancer. But that's part of what motivated the back porch was, you know, they called me to come carry him out the house because the paramedics wouldn't, Mom couldn't, and those old wooden rickety steps, you know, nobody trusted them. So I came up here and carried him down those steps out the back door. But that's what motivated the new steps, and for me to build a back deck for Mom back there, so she has a safe way to egress the house, because I could get in and out, but that don't do her a dang bit of good, because she's the one who lives here. So I wanted to make sure she had a way that she was comfortable with getting in and out of the house.